Imagine for a moment the silence of your own heart when trust is broken. You gave kindness without measure, you offered loyalty without calculation, and you loved with the innocence of one who believed goodness would be returned in kind. Yet instead of gratitude, what you received was betrayal. Instead of gentleness, you were given cruelty. Instead of truth, you were handed lies. That is the sting of treachery, not from enemies far away, but from those you trusted most deeply. And if you've ever lived through that kind of heartbreak, you know it is not a wound of the flesh, but a wound of the soul. In the midnight hours, when sleep refuses to come, you replay their words, their actions, and wonder how someone could take a heart so pure and treat it with such contempt. You wonder if they walk freely, untroubled, while you are left with the pain. You question whether God saw, whether he heard, whether he noticed the tears that fell in secret, and yet, I tell you this, he did. He noticed every word, every act, every stab of treachery. He recorded every tear you shed, and the Judge of heaven does not look away. Evil always believes it has escaped. Betrayers convince themselves that silence means absence, that delay means forgetfulness. But the silence of God is not his indifference, it is his patience. And patience has a purpose. God gives time for repentance, but when it is rejected, judgment is inevitable. The ones who thought they could pierce your soul without consequence will one day realize that their cruelty has written their own sentence. Think of the seed buried in the ground. To the eye it appears dead, lost, forgotten under the soil. Yet time reveals its destiny. It rises, transformed into life. And so it is with betrayal. What felt like the burial of your spirit is not your end. It is the planting of your future. But for those who betrayed, the opposite occurs. What looks like freedom, prosperity, and success becomes their trap. The very evil they planted begins to rot their foundation, until nothing is left but regret and despair. Do not mistake the slowness of justice for its absence. God is not mocked. Every cruelty, every lie, every manipulation carries a weight that will return to its sender. Those who betrayed your pure heart will pay dearly, not because you demand it, but because God himself will not allow evil to go unpunished. And perhaps the greatest truth of all is this: you need not lift your hand in revenge. Vengeance is not your burden to carry. Your calling is to remain pure, to remain faithful, to keep your heart soft, even when the world would have you harden it. Because the moment you trade your purity for bitterness, they win twice. But if you trust God to handle the reckoning, then you rise while they fall. So ask yourself, what is stronger, your wound or the one who heals it? Who has the final word, the betrayer who laughed at your pain, or the God who promises that every tear will be answered? If history has taught us anything, it is this: kingdoms rise and fall, but justice belongs to God alone. Those who walk in arrogance cannot escape his hand. And so tonight I tell you with certainty, the betrayal you suffered will not be the end of your story. It will be the beginning of their undoing and your elevation. Trust God's timing, for he is never late. Trust his justice, for he is never blind. Trust his heart, for he has always been with you, even in the silence. Now, let us turn to the truths that flow from this promise. There are wounds you carry that no one else may ever see. The laughter at your expense, the whispered lies behind your back, the coldness of those who once claimed they loved you. Sometimes these things go unnoticed by the world. People move on, distracted with their own lives, as if nothing ever happened. But you, the one who was betrayed, are left holding the sharp edge of pain. You wonder if anyone truly understands the depth of what you've endured, and in those moments of loneliness, It can feel like you've been abandoned not just by people, but by justice itself. But here is the unshakable truth. God sees it all. His eyes never close. His awareness never fades. When your heart was broken, when your trust was shattered, when you fell silent because words could not capture the hurt, He was there. Every betrayal that escaped the notice of friends, family, or society was recorded in the heart of God. He does not overlook what others dismiss. He does not excuse what others minimize. Where people say, "It wasn't that bad," God says, "I saw every detail." Think of the way light exposes what is hidden. In a dark room, dust seems invisible, but when the sunlight pours in, every particle is revealed. Betrayal works the same way. To those who commit it, it may seem invisible. They think no one knows, no one sees, no one will ever hold them accountable. But the light of God exposes all things. He is the witness to every silent tear, every sleepless night, every act of cruelty done in secret. Even when the betrayer has moved on and forgotten, God has not. This truth is what anchors your soul in the storm. If you had to rely on human justice alone, you might despair. People can be deceived, courts can be bribed, and friends can be blind to the truth. But the judge of heaven cannot be deceived. He saw when you were mocked. He saw when they smiled to your face and cursed you behind your back. He saw when you gave love and loyalty, and they answered with betrayal, and not one moment escaped His gaze. So why does this matter? Because knowing that God sees means you do not suffer in vain. Your story is not written in darkness. It is written in the light of His justice. The betrayals you endured are not forgotten chapters. They are evidence presented before the throne of the Almighty. And in His perfect time, He will bring forth what was hidden. Your comfort, then, is not in the blindness of people, but in the clarity of God. When the world overlooks you, God notices. When others minimize your pain, He magnifies His care. When your story seems forgotten, He is writing the next chapter. And those who betrayed you may think they escaped unseen, but the reality is sobering. Every act of betrayal has already been seen, already recorded, already awaiting the hand of divine justice. That the Bible does record the hand of justice, there is a strange bitterness in watching those who betrayed you appear to thrive. You look at their lives and wonder why they seem untouched, why they walk in laughter while you sit in silence, why they gather rewards while you wrestle with scars. To the human eye it feels unfair. You gave them your heart, and they shattered it. You stayed true, and they walked away false. And now, instead of reaping the pain they caused, it looks as if they are prospering. But let us not be deceived by appearances. Scripture itself warns that the wicked may flourish like grass, but it is only for a season. Their prosperity is shallow, built upon lies and deceit, and it carries a hidden cost that is invisible at first, but undeniable in the end. They may laugh today, but that laughter will turn hollow. They may gather wealth and success, but it will feel empty in their hands. For what they took from you unjustly becomes a curse in their possession. Think of poison wrapped in sugar. At first it tastes sweet, almost irresistible, but beneath the sweetness lies death. Betrayal works in much the same way. It may bring temporary gain, an advantage in business, a false reputation of goodness, a sense of control or power, but the poison is already at work. Every lie they told corrodes their soul. Every act of cruelty darkens their spirit. Every wound they inflicted becomes a debt they cannot escape. This is why you must never envy those who seem to prosper through betrayal. What you see on the surface is not the full picture. You see the outward shine, but not the inner decay. You see the celebration, but not the quiet torment of their conscience. You see them walking in confidence, but you do not see the cracks forming beneath their feet. The cost of betrayal is hidden, but it is certain. Sooner or later, the weight of their actions will crush them. And here is the paradox. While their false prosperity leads to emptiness, your pain leads to growth. What they thought would break you becomes the very fire that refines you. What looked like loss in your life becomes the soil for new beginnings. Meanwhile, their temporary gain becomes the chain that binds them. They will discover that they cannot outrun the seeds they planted. For the law of God is sure. What a person sows, they shall also reap. So when you see them smiling, do not despair. When you see them climbing, do not lose heart. The climb is deceptive. The higher they rise on falsehood, the greater their fall will be. They cannot escape the hidden cost of their betrayal. And when that cost comes due, they will realize too late that what they thought was freedom was only a prison disguised. Their season of apparent prosperity is just that, a season. It has an end. But your endurance, your faith, your trust in God, these things are eternal, and when their false riches fade, your true treasure will remain. One of the most painful experiences after betrayal is not just the wound itself, but the silence that follows. You cry out to God, you ask for answers, you beg for some sign of His intervention, and yet the heavens seem quiet. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and sometimes even years pass, and you wonder, why hasn't God done anything? Why does it look like they are winning while I am left in ruins? That silence can feel unbearable, as though your prayers have gone unheard. But silence is not absence. It is strategy. Think of a master painter who begins with a blank canvas. For a time there is nothing to see, nothing to admire, only silence, only emptiness. But the artist is not absent. He is preparing, planning every brushstroke. In the same way, when God seems silent, He is not ignoring your pain. He is setting the stage for something greater. Justice in His timing is never rushed and never late. The betrayers mistake this silence as a sign of freedom. They believe God does not care or that He has overlooked their cruelty. They laugh louder, act bolder, and continue their deception as if no hand will ever reach them. But the silence of God is their greatest deception, for in that silence He allows their cup of sin to fill. He allows their arrogance to grow, so that when He moves, no one can deny His justice. The longer He waits, the more complete His judgment becomes. This is why you must not lose faith in seasons of silence. The stillness is not abandonment, it is preparation. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and forgotten in prison. For years it looked as if God was silent. But in reality, every moment of silence was preparation for his rise to power. The very silence that felt like abandonment was the womb of his destiny. So too in your life. God's silence is not His absence, but His way of writing justice into your story. He allows the betrayers to climb higher, because the higher they climb, the harder they fall. He allows them to boast in arrogance, because their arrogance will be the very evidence of their downfall. And He allows your pain to deepen, not to break you, but to prove your strength, to shape your character, and to make your vindication undeniable when it comes. Do not mistake delay for denial. Do not confuse silence with neglect. God is never absent in your story. He is the unseen hand, arranging every detail, ensuring that when justice arrives, it comes in such a way that no one, neither you, nor your enemies, nor the world, can deny it. His silence is the pause before the storm, the stillness before the unveiling, the quiet before the trumpet. When He moves, the betrayers will tremble, and you will know that every moment of silence was a preparation for his justice. Purity of heart is both a blessing and a burden. To carry a pure heart means to love freely, to trust openly, to give without holding back. It means believing in the goodness of others, even at the risk of being hurt. But it also means that when betrayal comes, the wound is deep. Because your love was real, the pain is real. Because your loyalty was genuine, the betrayal cuts sharply. The world may look at your kindness as weakness, but in reality it is your greatest strength. A pure heart may be wounded, but it can never be defeated. Why? Because purity is eternal. Evil corrodes itself, but purity endures. Betrayers think they have destroyed you by wounding your heart, but all they have done is reveal the strength of your spirit. They mistook your kindness for weakness, your humility for foolishness, your love for naivety. But in truth, purity has a resilience that cruelty can never comprehend. Think of gold tested by fire. The flames do not destroy it, they refine it. The heat does not diminish its worth, it reveals its purity. And so it is with your heart. Betrayal is the fire, but you are the gold. Every wound only proves that your heart was strong enough to endure. Every scar becomes evidence that you loved deeply, that you gave authentically, that you carried a strength greater than those who sought to harm you. The world may tell you to harden, to become cold, to stop caring, to build walls around your soul. But that is not the path of victory. The real victory is to remain pure in a corrupt world, to continue loving even when unloved, to remain faithful even when betrayed. Because when you do, you prove that the betrayal failed. It wounded you, yes, but it did not change you. You are still you, still carrying light in a world full of darkness. And here lies the truth. A pure heart is undefeatable, because it is aligned with God Himself. He is the source of purity, and when your heart reflects His, no betrayal can extinguish it. They may try to silence your voice, but your purity speaks louder. They may try to bury your spirit, but your purity shines brighter. What they thought would destroy you becomes the very evidence that you are set apart. But to be that, a wounded heart can heal, but a corrupt heart eats itself from within. Betrayers believe they have power, but in reality they are weak. They destroy trust, and in doing so, destroy themselves. But you, though wounded, remain whole, because purity is stronger than deceit, love is stronger than hate, and truth is stronger than lies. So hold your head high. Your wounds are not signs of weakness. They are proof of your strength. A pure heart may bleed, but it can never be defeated, and in the end it is your purity that will outlast their betrayal. There is a fire that rises in the heart of every betrayed soul, the desire for vengeance. When you've been wronged, when your trust has been shattered, when your heart has been pierced by betrayal, it is natural to want them to feel what you felt, to suffer what you suffered, to taste the same bitterness they served you. And yet, vengeance is a dangerous weight to carry. It burns hot, but it consumes the vessel that holds it. That is why God, in His infinite wisdom, commands us to release it. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, He says. And in those words, there is both a command and a promise. Your calling is not to avenge yourself. Your calling is to remain faithful and pure. When you hand vengeance over to God, you free your soul from chains of bitterness. You allow Him, the perfect judge, to take what was meant for evil and turn it into a display of His justice. For what could you do in your anger that compares to what He can do in His wisdom? What punishment could you devise that could match the weight of his divine retribution. Think of a child trying to carry a boulder that only a giant can lift. That's what vengeance is. It is too heavy for you. If you attempt to carry it, it will crush you. But when you give it to God, He bears the weight easily, and He ensures it falls where it belongs. Remaining faithful and pure does not mean you ignore the wrong. It does not mean you pretend it didn't hurt. It means you refuse to let their evil transform you into something like them. They betrayed your heart, but if you respond with vengeance, you betray yourself. If you meet hate with hate, you become what you despise. But if you remain faithful, faithful to God, faithful to love, faithful to purity, then you prove that betrayal cannot define you. Your strength is not in striking back. Your strength is in standing tall, in refusing to let bitterness control you, in trusting that God will fight your battles. Remember, those who betrayed you have already written their own curse. Every act of cruelty is a seed planted, and those seeds will grow whether you act or not. You do not need to spend your energy watching over them. You only need to keep your heart clean, your spirit steady, and your faith strong. Let vengeance go, not because they deserve mercy, but because you deserve peace. Your soul was not designed to carry hatred. It was designed to carry light. The moment you release vengeance into God's hands, you regain your freedom. And when He acts, His justice will be perfect. It is one of the mysteries of life. The very thing meant to destroy you becomes the stage for your elevation. Betrayal is never wasted in the hands of God. What others plotted for your downfall, He transforms into a platform to reveal His glory in your life. The betrayal you suffered is not just an isolated act of cruelty. It is part of a larger story, one where God Himself steps in as the author and turns the page. Consider the life of Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, stripped of his dignity, sold into slavery and thrown into prison for crimes he didn't commit. For years it seemed like the story of his life was one of defeat, but then suddenly the very betrayal that was meant to bury him became the stage of his vindication. His brothers, who once mocked him, had to bow before him. The betrayal was not the end. It was the setup for God's justice. The same is true in your story. Betrayal feels like loss, but it is actually preparation. God uses it to show the world that He alone has the power to take ashes and turn them into beauty, to take mourning and turn it into joy. And when vindication comes, it will not be hidden. It will be public, undeniable, and unmistakable. The very ones who laughed at you will be forced to witness the favor of God upon your life. This is why betrayal is so dangerous for the betrayer. It places them directly in the role of witnesses to God's justice. They thought they were destroying you, but they were actually building the stage for your rise. They thought they were silencing you, but they were giving God the perfect opportunity to amplify your voice. They thought they were burying you. Vindication in God's hands is never small. He doesn't just restore what was taken, He multiplies it. He doesn't just silence the lies, He replaces them with undeniable truth. And when He moves, your betrayers will not be able to deny what they see. The very mouths that spoke against you will fall silent. The very eyes that look down on you will be forced to look up. So do not despair in betrayal. Do not think it is the end. It is only the stage, and the performance of God's justice has not yet begun. Trust Him, for He never wastes pain. Every betrayal in your life is an opportunity for Him to reveal His justice and your vindication. Betrayal feels final. It feels like a door slammed shut, like a story written in permanent ink. When someone you trusted turns against you, it can seem as though the pain will never end, and that their cruelty will always define the chapter of your life. But betrayal does not have the final word. Restoration does. The voice of betrayal may echo loudly for a season, but the voice of God speaks louder and lasts longer. The voice of God speaks louder. Throughout Scripture, God never allowed betrayal to be the closing act. Look at Job. Stripped of everything, mocked by those who should have comforted him, left in ashes and despair, yet God restored him double for his trouble. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, yet raised to sit on a throne. Look at Christ himself, betrayed by the ones he came to save, and yet resurrection was the final word. Betrayal never ends the story when God is the author. In your life, the betrayal you suffered will not be the stamp that defines your existence. It may have delayed you, wounded you, and humbled you, but it will not destroy you. God has restoration waiting. And his restoration is not just equal repayment, it is abundant, overflowing, undeniable. He restores in such a way that even your betrayers become witnesses of his favor. This is the pattern of divine justice. The betrayers fall, while the betrayed rise, not because of human strength, but because of God's hand. When he lifts you, no one can pull you down. When he restores you, no one can erase his work. And when he vindicates you, no lie, no betrayal, no slander can stand against his truth. Restoration means more than just healing. It means repositioning. You will not simply return to where you were before betrayal. You will be elevated to places you never imagined. Betrayal may have taken years, opportunities, or relationships, but restoration will give you peace, blessings, and honor that far outweigh what was lost. And the beauty of it is this: your betrayers will be forced to see it. Their laughter will die on their lips when they watch you rise. Their arrogance will turn to silence when they see the hand of God lifting you higher than they ever expected. So take heart. Betrayal is not the last page of your story. Restoration is. You may be walking through the valley now, but God is leading you toward a table prepared in the presence of your enemies. They will watch as you are blessed, as you are lifted, as you are restored. And in that moment you will understand what it means to trust the justice of God. And so we return to the truth that has carried us through this message. The ones who betrayed your pure heart will pay dearly, for God never lets evil go unpunished. Their betrayal was not unseen. God watched. Their temporary gain was not without cost. The debt is written. His silence was not absence, but preparation for the day when justice will be revealed. Your pure heart, though wounded, was never defeated. Your faith, though tested, was never destroyed. And because vengeance belongs to God, you are free to walk forward with peace, leaving the weight of judgment in his hands. What they meant for your destruction has become the very stage for your vindication. Their cruelty has become the evidence of your strength. Their betrayal will not be the final chapter of your life. Restoration will. You will rise, not because of their apology, not because of their regret, but because of God's unfailing justice and mercy. Hold fast to this truth. God lifts those who are faithful, and he humbles those who harm the innocent. The betrayers will fall, and you will rise. Not because of chance, not because of luck, but because the author of justice himself has spoken. And when God has the final word, betrayal is silenced, evil is punished, and the pure in heart are restored beyond measure.